Good morning, garden friends. It's Heather at Bush Poppy Farm. Today I'm going to just be doing some chores here at the farm and at the garden at home. And so I just thought I'd take you along. Not super exciting, but you know. It's kind of funny because it is 11 a.m. and I'm just arriving at the farm. Mostly because it's been so cold. It was 28 degrees Fahrenheit again this morning when I woke up, and coming out here when it's that cold, when I could wait till it got warmer, just wasn't very exciting to me, so I waited. Plus, we had an earthquake at about 3:40 in the morning. Short, sharp shock. Those happen fairly frequently. This one was a 4.0 and it was about 7 miles from us, so we felt it. Basically, it just feels like, if you've never been in that kind of earthquake before, it feels like a big truck just hit your house or your building, whatever building you're in. Everything shakes just once, but it's definitely enough to wake you up. So anyway, I laid there awake for a long time after that, didn't get much sleep, so I just kind of had a lie-in this morning, reading the Times and, you know, having some breakfast and stuff. So now I'm out here and ready to work. So I'm going to put down the rodent repellent that I showed you guys the other day in here, and then I'm going to try to plant the rest of those narcissus before I head back to the garden at home to treat all the citrus with iron, as well as the azalea beds with elemental sulfur to raise the pH so that they can be more happy there. It's warming up enough that there's actually bees out right now, which is kind of fun. I think it's maybe 50 degrees Fahrenheit right now, but very breezy, so it feels more like it's in the mid-40s. And if you see all this white stuff floating around, all the white stuff floating around is coyote brush is blooming right now, so it's like snow flurries, but not snow. First thing I want to do is check and see what the min-max thermometer is reading, since it was out here in the high tunnel all night long. Curious to see what that says. Okay, so it looks like last night we got down to about 32 in here, and it stayed around, got to around 78. Oh no, just 70 in here yesterday. So that's nice. That's good for the plants that are in here. I bet they really enjoyed that. All right, I'm going to lay out this Repels-All and then get started on the narcissus. I'm still having a lot of problems with my knees. So if you see me limping a little bit or having a hard time getting up and down, that's what I'm dealing with. Makes me feel like I'm 90 years old as opposed to 52. Kind of sucks. Anyway, let's get going. that's the chores done, at least for the farm. Well, take that back. 2 chores. There's so much to do out here. Everywhere I look is a mess. I have to put that on the back burner because I have other things that are taking precedence right now. But so now I'm going to head to the nursery, get some elemental sulfur to treat the azalea beds at home. And we're also going to give the citrus an iron treatment. So let's go get that done. Okay, so now we're home and it's time to get the home chores done. One of them being treating the azaleas. So in a minute, I'm going to show you what they look like. Azaleas and camellias are acid-loving plants. The same thing with blueberries and a number of other things. The soil, native soil here in my part of California, has a very high pH. It's very alkaline. It's a pH of 8, and our water is also a pH of 8. So what that means for plants that want a pH of 5 is that they struggle. When the soil is too alkaline, it will bind up nutrients such as calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, nitrogen, iron. It all gets bound up and the plant can't access it. So it doesn't matter how much you put in the soil, if the alkalinity is too high, if the pH is too high, then that stuff's just going to sit there because the plants can't take it up through their roots. So the fix for this is to acidify the soil. And the way we do that is with something, this just happens to be by the local company that I use here, E.B. Stone, but it's soil sulfur. So elemental sulfur, this will lower the pH of the soil and help make those nutrients more available to the plants. I would not have selected, knowing that this pH is 8, I would not have selected to put azaleas and camellias in my property because they struggle here. But these were all here before I arrived, and so I've just been trying to take good care of them and keep them happy. I have to treat them with sulfur twice a year. The winter time is a great time to do it because then when it rains, it just kind of all soaks in, because otherwise all this stuff is on a drip and it's a lot harder to have things soak into the soil when you're using drip. So let me show you first what they look like. There are lots of yellow leaves. They're chlorotic. They are lacking in nutrients. Once this sulfur gets into the soil and the pH changes, they green up and they look beautiful and they bloom better. So if you are suffering from something like that, first thing you should do is test your soil. You can buy a soil pH test kit, super cheap. They're like $5. And you can test the soil and find out what your pH is. That's good to know anyway. And then you can make adjustments to the soil in order to fix what potentially is happening to your plants, because just adding extra fertilization is probably not going to fix the problem if pH is the issue. Okay, so I'm going to go on and put this down, but first let me show you what they look like. This is the before. Okay, so here is one of the azaleas. You can see all of those yellow leaves, and they should look nice and deep and green like that, but there's a lot of yellowing on here. Not nearly as much as there usually is, and I attribute that to all of the redwood needles that are on the ground here. You can see there's more yellow leaves. These are starting to yellow. Yeah, so we want to make sure that we address this problem. We have redwoods right here, and they drop all of their needles, and up until last year, we used to hire a lawn crew that would come and mow and blow. And we decided to stop doing that because we could take care of that ourselves. And we wanted the leaves on the ground. We wanted the natural mulch. So because redwood conifer needles are acidic, that helps this soil here a lot. It's not a full treatment to keep them from turning yellow, but it does a lot of good. So I think that's why they look way better this year at this time than they normally would, because they've had the acidic nature of the redwood leaves on top as a mulch. All right, so let me go in and get this stuff applied. So you might be wondering, how do I know how much to put down? I know this from doing this for a couple of years now, that I need 2 boxes for this pathway, but make sure you read the box, find out what the application rate is, and follow that. And then if you're not going to get any rain anytime soon, you could water it in with a hose or a sprinkler to make sure it makes soil contact and starts making good changes to your soil. Okay, now we need to go change more soil by adding iron to our citrus. Alrighty dighty, next step, treating the citrus for the yellowing. That's an iron issue. And so that's called chlorosis. I talked about this in the garden tour video. But what I use is chelated iron, and there's different companies that make it. This is a solution of iron, copper, magnesium, and zinc, and it's all chelated. What chelation helps keep nutrients from leaching through the soil. And so this is really important in potted plants. Like I said before, if it's in the ground, the leaching is usually not as severe, and it's also harder to top up soils in a potted plant because at some point you reach capacity, right? So chelated iron, and just like with everything else, make sure you check the rates on the back on the label because it'll differ by product. And so for me, for this size plants, it's about 2 tablespoons per gallon. Now I'm not going to use an entire gallon of water on each of these pots because they're pretty saturated because of the rain. So I'm going to take my 2-gallon watering can, and I'm going to put 8 tablespoons, because it's 4 tablespoons per gallon, into it, and then I'm just going to distribute it among those 3 pots, and then we should be good for a while. I do have to do this sometimes twice a year, but basically what I'm doing is I'm just watching the plant, because the plant is going to tell you based on how the leaves look. So I'll let all of that soak in, and then in a couple of days, I'll actually fertilize the citrus because winter is the time when citrus is starting to set buds for flowers. And so you want to make sure you give it food right when it's about to do that, because that's what it's going to use. All right. Thanks so much for joining me for garden and farm chores today. Got a few things done, and that feels good. But there is definitely plenty more to do, but it's getting cold. It's getting later in the day. My fingers are freezing. It's time to go inside. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.